Hello again, I'm Mike Reese. I'm Director of Operations at the University of Minnesota West Central Research and Outreach Center. We're an agricultural experiment station located in western Minnesota. And today I'm going to visit with you a little bit about our projects that we've been working on for about 20 years now, developing green hydrogen and ammonia. And I'd like to acknowledge a lot of our funders, state of Minnesota in particular, as well as the U.S. Department of Energy. So I'm going to start with the take-home message today. I realize it's getting late in the day, and it might be good just to give you the message right now, but the Inflation Reduction Act provides a $3 per kilogram hydrogen production incentive with a direct pay option, and that's changed the playing field for green hydrogen and ammonia. It's no longer 10 years away. It's here today because of that. So the question now is, how do farmers best position themselves to take advantage of this opportunity? There are opportunities to stack incentives within the IRA and other programs. Farmer-owned groups could utilize renewable hydrogen for production of anhydrous ammonia, urea, methanol, sustainable aviation fuel, and other molecules. And the market demand will be significant for these green molecules moving forward. So how does green hydrogen fit into agricultural applications? Well, first and foremost, it's used for nitrogen fertilizer production. We can use it for thermal applications, power generation, transportation fuel. We could use it in the production of advanced biofuels, as well as other applications. This is how we envision this working. You would produce hydrogen by electrolyzing water, pull nitrogen from the air, combine it together on a traditional Haber-Bosch process, and form anhydrous ammonia. And then you could use that anhydrous ammonia, again, for a wide range of applications. You could also use the hydrogen for advanced biofuel production. Oops. So if you look at the scale of what we're talking about today, we could produce about produce all of the nitrogen fertilizer for the United States with about 50,000 megawatts of wind energy. And if you look at the wind resource map, you see right down through the center, basically where we're at is our highest wind resource area. And you look over here at the other map is the corn belt, and you see there's a nice synergy that we can actually produce nitrogen fertilizer where it's consumed, and right now do it economically. So traditionally we use natural gas and in some cases coal to produce anhydrous ammonia, and from there we produce all of our other ammonia nitrogen fertilizers and phosphate fertilizers like urea, ammonium nitrate. We also use ammonia and ammonia phosphates like MAP and DAP. And so you could envision a process in which we start producing our own fertilizers at a farm level using the renewable resources that are on our farmland. So really, when we first started working in this, we thought that this could become an elegant solution. You take wind energy, water, and air to produce nitrogen fertilizer. And you might think that this is something that hasn't been done before. Actually, this is how nitrogen fertilizer started out. They started using hydroelectric power and electricity to produce it. And then in the 1950s, natural gas became much more readily available, was cheap, and so we switched to using natural gas. But this is a tried and true production method. We'd electrolyze water again. We'd separate nitrogen from the air. Air is 78% nitrogen. Combine the two in a Haber-Bosch process under high temperature, high pressure. And then if for example, you wanted to produce urea, you could pull the CO2 from the ethanol plant, the biofermentation process, which is high purity CO2, and combine it together to form urea. Back in 2013, at our Research and Outreach Center, we established the first in the world wind to hydrogen to ammonia pilot project, and we've operated that now for a number of years. Here's a picture of the pilot plant itself. At the time, I would say we did it, but it wasn't economical. It wasn't optimized. Now we're going to optimize the process through our next generation system. We're going to have a 1 metric ton per day plant in coupling with a bunch of our partners across the U.S. and across the world. And so we'll be building this over the next year and a half. And again, it'll be located at our same pilot plant facility in Morris, Minnesota. And there's several uses that we have planned for this. We're going to use it for power generation in a fuel cell. We're going to use it for fueling, forklift, and then also for fertilizer. So why renewable ammonia? Well, I think one reason is this. If you look at this chart, you can see, I can't see there very well, but you can see the corn volatility and the corn pricing going up and down. And then you see the anhydrous ammonia also kind of following, to some extent, following corn and following natural gas. But look at this volatility, and this is the natural gas, the blue line is natural gas. And that's very challenging. I farm also, by the way. That's very challenging to budget for. That when you have to continually try to market your grain when you don't know what the price of your inputs are going to be. And so one thing that this type of process does is wind contracts are usually on a 20-year basis. And right now they're about $25 a megawatt. So there's no volatility there. It's firm all the way across. And so with the new IRA that provides $529 per metric ton for a hydrogen production incentive for the first 10 years, you can really get to a point where you're competitive with natural gas and coal-based anhydrous ammonia production. And this line just shows what other types of, I think the green line is anhydrous ammonia. You can see in Minnesota, our use of anhydrous ammonia is declining where our use of urea is increasing. And again, we can make urea in this process as well. So we did an analysis, myself and my colleagues, Matt Pallas and Paroma Steatidis did analysis of Minnesota looking at different sites that would be potential for putting in wind to ammonia systems, evaluated 3 counties, a very high wind resource area, a moderate, Stevens County where I'm from, and a low in Dakota County. And these are the prices here that we've modeled for anhydrous ammonia. And this is before the IRA incentive. So $572, $542, and then in the low area, $620 per metric ton of ammonia. And again, this is metric ton, not short ton. When you add in the $529, again, you can start to see that this might be an opportunity for farmer groups to take advantage of this possibility. Now, electricity prices do matter. And so we're looking at what impact does variable electricity prices have. And it can be as much as $10 per megawatt hour. $10 per megawatt hour can move the cost about $100 per metric ton, which it also could move it down too if you're in a really very high wind resource area. Again, I think one of the main points I want to leave with you today is that the IRA is transformative when it comes to these type of businesses. And if you look at some of our modeling here, you can see the historical price of anhydrous ammonia on a retail basis. And you can see that with today's green ammonia production technology, we can come pretty close to being in that mid-range. If you were to add in 2030, our new technologies, we were modeling it to be at this green line here, which is about $430 per, about $75 per ton. And then when you add in the IRA incentive, we're down here in the about $300 per ton. And in 2030, you can even get it down there with the technology improvements. It's almost $100 a ton. So again, this is an opportunity that farmer groups should consider moving forward. Another area that we're looking at is how to use anhydrous ammonia not only as a fertilizer but as a fuel to decarbonize agriculture. So if you look at, this is the work that we've done at our Research and Outreach Center looking at the fossil energy footprint of corn production. About 35% of the fossil energy footprint is related to nitrogen fertilizer, and about 45% is related to grain drying, and realizing that this might change depending on where you're at in the country. But right there, if you can use anhydrous ammonia to dry your grain, then you could, I think that's transformative. You could reduce the fossil energy footprint about 80% of corn production. And that translates to feed, milk, meat, and also biofuel production. So you can lower the carbon intensity of all that. Really, when you think about it, anhydrous ammonia is basically very similar to a hydrocarbon in that you're using nitrogen to bind the hydrogen rather than carbon. And so in that case, it's cleaner. That's where you're getting your reduction in the carbon intensity. And yes, anhydrous ammonia does burn. We do quite a bit of work in this in our Department of Mechanical Engineering, looking at how to best combust anhydrous ammonia. You actually want to slow the flame down, so you swirl the flame. And when you do that, you reduce the NOx and the N2O emissions, and you burn it, and you get more efficiency by doing that. And as part of that, we did test a grain dryer, and this was this last fall, actually in November, not too long ago. You can see that there's ammonia is being, sorry about that. Ammonia is being combusted, and ammonia does not burn blue. It burns orange, by the way. It's the same quality flame. It just burns blue or orange. And you can see our little grain dryer that we're using to dry our grain with. And in 2019, we also used ammonia in a tractor test. This was a 50-50 blend of ammonia and diesel. Right now, we're going more towards using 100% ammonia in a spark ignition engine rather than a compression engine, diesel engine. But there are other options, like this tractor that's been prototyped by a company called Ammonia in Brooklyn, New York, which uses a fuel cell. So they crack the ammonia into hydrogen first, and then they can use it directly in the tractor here. So there's a lot of other opportunities for hydrogen and ammonia across sectors. And so this is also an opportunity for agriculture, partnering with other sectors to produce green hydrogen and green ammonia, and to reduce not only agriculture's carbon footprint, but the carbon footprint of mining and biofuel production, construction, and in other areas as well. There are barriers. Electrolyzer supply is going to be tight. Scale is a barrier. It does matter. You can't necessarily do this on your farm. It has to be more of like an ethanol cooperative. Financing, of course, is always an issue. Right mix of partners is important. Storage, how do you deal with storage if you're outside of the typical fertilizer system? Maybe urea is a better option in that case. We don't have a lot of experience in this field from an industry standpoint. Pricing, how do you price the fertilizer for farmers over the long term? And then there's very sophisticated competition in this space, with decades, centuries of experience. But at the end of the day, I think that this last bullet is really important for all of you as farmers. You own the demand for ammonia. You own the demand for nitrogen fertilizer. You choose who you buy your ammonia from. If you want to produce it yourself, you can do that. And that's really powerful because there's tremendous push and drive in this area right now. Oil companies, utilities, fertilizer companies, but they all want your business. And so if you want to produce it yourself, you can. So that, again, I'll leave the take-home message, which I already read to you. So thank you very much, and look forward to your questions.